Welcome back to the channel, my beautiful observers. It's your girl Ava. We are unpacking an absolute masterclass in cutting your losses and securing the bag. We've all heard those exhausting stories of women enduring endless disrespect just to keep a perfect marriage intact. But what happens when a woman literally dies from her husband's betrayal, hits the ultimate reset button, and wakes up with her eyes wide open? Spoiler alert, darlings, she doesn't fight the mistress. She takes half his net worth, orchestrates a hostile corporate takeover, and leaves him rotting in the gutter. Settle in. Because this is how you turn a heartbreak into a billion-dollar portfolio. In the wealthy circles of the entire East Coast, everyone knew Riley was Brody's most obedient and perfect wife since high school. I'd been chasing after Brody, watching him mingle and chat cheerfully among various blonde beauties. I always humbly waited for him to look back at me just once. Then, in a yacht accident, I pushed him out of the way without hesitation, nearly losing my own life in the process. Perhaps the heavens took pity on me. This accident finally made Brody see my worth. We got married in a cathedral with 100 years of history. When he put that expensive custom diamond ring on my finger, he publicly vowed he would never let me down in this lifetime. I believed his words, and for the sake of his family business, I willingly left my career to become a devoted wife. It wasn't until a young girl named Tessa appeared before me on her own initiative that I realized, in these 5 years of marriage, I was the only one who believed in the so-called love. Brody kept his affair with Tessa tightly under wraps at first. He thought he was being very discreet, until Tessa, unwilling to stay in the shadows, deliberately danced her way in front of me. It was at my 3-month pregnancy baby shower, where I was hosting all the socialite wives at the seaside villa. Tessa somehow got hold of an invitation and showed up in an extremely eye-catching haute couture gown. She walked up to me with a champagne glass, pretending to toast, but accidentally spilled the entire drink on my light-colored dress. Before I could even get angry, she suddenly went weak in the knees and collapsed onto the Persian carpet, crying pitifully. "Mrs. Riley, I am sorry, this is all my fault. I shouldn't have fallen in love with Brody. You can insult me all you want, but love can't be controlled. I can't live without him anymore," as all the guests gasped in shock. The humiliation of having the mistress come to provoke me made me dizzy. I immediately felt unbearable abdominal pain and was rushed to the hospital. Lying on the cold operating table in the upscale private clinic, dazed and confused, I suddenly recalled some extremely terrifying images. They were from my past life. In my past life, Tessa had also exposed everything at the party like this. She coveted Brody's money and status, deliberately molding herself into a pure and innocent victim, blinded by love. And Brody totally fell for it. The scandal made the gossip headlines back then. To protect the company's reputation, Brody briefly stayed by my side. But soon after, Tessa staged a suicide by pills drama. Brody completely lost control over that young girl and forced me, pregnant at the time, to give up my position as his wife. Back then, I was incredibly stupid, threatening him with a child, refusing to divorce even if it killed me, and ultimately fell into Tessa's trap. On the day I gave birth, Tessa bribed the doctor to create a medical accident. I died miserably on the operating table from massive hemorrhaging. And less than a month after my death, Brody married Tessa, making her the high and mighty new missus, jolting awake from that suffocating memory. I touched my still beating heart and let out a cold laugh. Since heaven has let me be reborn with my memories, I will never repeat the same mistakes. That bastard Brody, he couldn't care less about him anymore. This actually wasn't the first time Tessa put on her running away from home act. She always branded herself as having moral standards, tearfully insisting she would never wreck someone else's family. But in reality, she lived without a care in the Manhattan penthouse Brody rented for her, drove a limited edition supercar worth tens of millions, and was covered head to toe in the most expensive luxury brands from Europe. Whenever Brody neglected her for a few days out of consideration for my feelings, Tessa would leave behind a heartfelt letter and disappear. Then Brody would go crazy trying to coax her back, presenting even more expensive jewelry to win her over. In my past life, Tessa used this playing hard to get tactic to completely force Brody into making up his mind to divorce me. And this time, the hospital room door was pushed open, and Brody walked in with stubble all over his face. He looked exhausted, his eyes full of heartache, except that heartache wasn't for me. Riley, Tessa found out. We're throwing a party. She feels like some kind of shameful criminal who can't face the light. She left a note and took off. Brody rubbed his temples, as if making a difficult decision. She is so innocent. I can't let her be wronged. Let's get divorced. Don't worry. The alimony for you and the child. I won't shortchange you a penny. In my previous life, when I heard those words, I cried, until I nearly stopped breathing. But right now, I only felt disgusted. Brody had severe oligospermia and had always had difficulty having children. His bringing up divorce now was nothing more than thinking he had me cornered, believing I'd compromise for the sake of loving him. I looked at him and lightly curved my lips. Sure, I wish you and Miss Tessa a lifetime of happiness together. Brody looked up in shock, as if he couldn't believe I'd agreed so readily. He thought I was playing some kind of playing hard, to get trick. But he didn't know that 10 minutes earlier, I had already secretly asked my attending physician to schedule an abortion surgery for me tomorrow. American medical privacy laws are extremely strict. As long as I don't sign off, Brody has no way of accessing any of my medical records. The next morning, after signing a series of liability waivers, he lay down on the operating table. As the anesthetic was pushed into my veins, I completely bid farewell to the shackles that had trapped me in my previous life. After the surgery, he recuperated for a week at a highly private convalescent center. And during that week, Brody didn't show up even once. Through social media, I found out why. As it turned out, Tessa had swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills in her own apartment to gain Brody's sympathy. Though inside sources later revealed it was just a bottle of melatonin, she had timed it perfectly and had the nanny call 911. The scene of the ambulance roaring up was captured and posted online. For his fragile true love, Brody broke through the reporter's encirclement like a madman and kept vigil at the hospital, without even changing his clothes for 3 whole days. During this time, Tessa wasn't idle either. She sent me a photo from a burner account, a man's large hand tightly holding hers, and on that man's hand was a wedding ring engraved with my name. The one who isn't loved is the third party, Riley. You are a pathetic worm who can only trap men with children. Looking at this provocative message, I casually pressed the delete button. Living my life over again, I felt that even glancing at them once more was a waste of time. After finishing my recovery, I put on exquisite makeup and returned to that mansion I had called home, beginning to methodically organize my own assets. During these 5 years of marriage to Brody, because we hadn't signed a strict prenuptial agreement, the property division upon divorce became an enormous sum. I knew Brody's guilt had now reached its peak. And to shut me up and to calm the stock price fluctuations of both families' companies, he would definitely bleed heavily. Sure enough, when Brody stepped through the door again, he brought with him a divorce and asset division agreement. drafted by his top legal team. When he came in, I was leisurely sitting on the sofa drinking black tea. He sat down across from me and sighed. "Riley, I am sorry about what happened this time. Tessa is too depressed. She can't live without me. Take a look at this settlement agreement. I am giving you the company's annual dividends, this beachfront villa, and half of the liquid assets under my name." He paused, his tone softening slightly. "As long as you give birth to the child, even if we're divorced, we'll still be a family." He thought I was that stupid woman who couldn't live without him, which is why he was so generous in this agreement. I picked up that thick document and carefully looked at the final amount. It was a huge sum of money that would be enough for me to spend for several lifetimes. Without any attachment, I decisively took the Mont Blanc pen he handed over and signed my name on the last page of the agreement. Let's pause and appreciate the sheer elegance of this transaction. Most men who step out on their wives secretly crave the drama. They want you to cry, scream, and fight the mistress for their mediocre affection. It feeds their narcissistic god complex. Brody fully expected Riley to play the desperate pregnant wife begging him to stay. Instead, she treats his monumental betrayal like a mundane real estate closing. She doesn't shed a single tear. She just signs on the dotted line and waits for the wire transfer to hit. There is nothing that shatters a man's fragile ego quite like realizing his departure isn't a tragedy to you, but a highly profitable buyout. She didn't just leave him, she cashed him out, seeing that I didn't cry or make a fuss. Didn't even say a word to try to keep him. Brody's expression suddenly became somewhat ugly. "Riley, don't you have anything to say?" Brody stared intently at my face, trying to catch a trace of breakdown. I put down the pen and pushed the document back to him. "Nothing to say. I hope your lawyer can transfer the money to my account as soon as possible. And then I'll have my lawyer go to court to apply for the final divorce decree." Brody's brows furrowed tightly, his eyes suddenly turning cold. He seemed to feel that my reaction had seriously hurt his arrogant pride. "I am warning you." He stood up, looking down at me from above. "I know what is on your mind about me. Even though we're divorced, if you dare to pull any tricks on Tessa behind her back, even if you are carrying my child, I absolutely won't let you off." Faced with his threat, I responded with an elegant smile. "Don't worry, I have zero interest in your trashy affairs. The hobby of picking up garbage off the ground belongs only to Miss Tessa." Brody was rendered speechless by my retort. He had planned to rush back to the hospital immediately after signing to comfort Tessa. But at this moment, an inexplicable sense of irritation held back his steps. In the end, he didn't go find Tessa himself, but instead instructed his assistant to handle it. Tessa had been waiting joyfully at the hospital for Brody to come pick her up with the divorce certificate, but only ended up with a cold and distant assistant. To avoid losing face, she could only obediently follow the assistant back to that penthouse apartment. After learning that Tessa had obediently gone back, Brody lavishly spent a fortune to hold an extravagant drone fireworks show in the night sky over the East Coast to compensate her, spelling out Tessa, "Marry me in the night sky." Tessa was extremely arrogant, and that very night she couldn't wait to send me the video of the scene, along with a message. "Old hag, did you see that? Brody's money and love are ultimately all mine. I had no time to be jealous with someone who was about to die and directly blocked her." The first asset division payment of tens of millions of dollars had already been transferred into my personal account. I immediately contacted a top real estate agent and listed that seaside mansion, the one Brody and I had carefully renovated together, symbolizing our love, for a quick sale at a low price. Not only that, But all those outdated jewelry pieces and luxury watches Brody had given me from the safe were also sent to the auction house. 2 days later, I booked a first-class ticket to a tropical island and started my new life. Just as I was lying on the white sand beach enjoying a sunbath, Brody's call came through. His furious roar came through the receiver. "Riley, are you crazy? You actually sold our marital home and sold all that jewelry that represented our memories. What the hell are you trying to do?" "Brody, the agreement clearly states the house goes to me." I wore my sunglasses and casually took a sip of my cold drink. "Since it is mine, what is wrong with selling it for cash to enjoy life? You clearly said you would pass that jewelry down to our children. I've already been generous enough to step aside for your little sweetheart. Why would I keep that junk?" I sneered. What is President Brody feeling like he gave me too much money and now he is heartbroken? Hit where it hurt, Brody angrily hung up the phone. A month later, I timed my flight back to the mainland, ready to go to court to get the final divorce decree. Once this document was issued, Brody and I would have nothing to do with each other whatsoever, but I underestimated the despicable nature of men. When I returned to the upscale apartment I was temporarily renting, Brody was already waiting in the lobby. "Riley, let's put the final legal process of the divorce on hold for now." He looked at me, his tone carrying a matter of fact arrogance. I immediately became alert. "Why, I've already taken the money. You've already signed. No, we're just one step away from the end. What the hell are you trying to pull?" Brody frowned in displeasure. He hadn't been doing well lately. Although Tessa was young and beautiful, all she did every day was endlessly demand his attention and designer bags. Accustomed to my meticulous care and adoration over the past 5 years, Brody found his life had become incredibly empty. Moreover, looking at my increasingly radiant face, he felt a strong sense of crisis. "After all, you are carrying my flesh and blood. I've looked into it. With my physical condition, having a second child is nearly impossible." Brody's gaze fell on my belly. "I can't let my child become illegitimate, so I am not getting divorced." "Then what about your true love, Tessa?" I almost laughed out loud. "She is still young. What does she know? At worst, I'll hold a ceremonial wedding for her in private to appease her, and I'll buy her a bigger house. But not divorcing is the best choice for our family. Wanting to have it all, selfish to the extreme. Now, get in the car. I'll go with you to a private clinic for a prenatal checkup." Brody grabbed my hand without allowing any objections. At that moment, cold sweat broke out on my back. Once we got to the hospital, the fact that I wasn't pregnant would be exposed. If Brody found out my purpose was just to get money, he would definitely use all his power and influence to freeze my assets. In desperation, after getting in the passenger seat, I quickly picked up my phone and took a photo of Brody who was driving. I switched to my backup account and immediately sent the photo to Tessa's private number with a caption. "You idiot. You probably don't know this, right? My husband is personally driving me to my prenatal checkup right now. He has already cancelled the divorce application and says he'll only keep you as a mistress on the side who can't see the light of day." This right here is psychological warfare at its absolute finest. Ladies, when Brody tries to trap her in his twisted, selfish fantasy of keeping both women, Riley doesn't waste her breath arguing or crying in the passenger seat. She simply weaponizes the mistress's raging insecurity. Sending that selfie was the equivalent of tossing a live grenade into Tessa's lap and walking away. Riley used a gold digger's own desperate greed as a remote control to eject Brody from the car, so she could safely fake her medical records. That is how you handle the trash. You don't get your hands dirty. You just manipulate them into taking each other out. Less than 3 minutes after sending the message, Brody's phone rang. From the other end came the panicked voice of Tessa's apartment housekeeper. "Sir, Miss Tessa suddenly fainted and has been taken away by ambulance. Please come quickly." Hearing that his precious darling had an accident, Brody slammed on the brakes, his face changing drastically. He dropped me off at an intersection, without even saying sorry, turned around, and sped off toward Tessa's hospital, watching his taillights. I let out a long breath of relief. I immediately contacted my attending physician and used an extremely generous hush money payment to have her create a flawless disguise in my medical records. After doing all this, I looked at the abusive text messages Tessa sent me on my phone and leisurely sent her back a lethal gift. What is the rush? If you are so capable, why don't you have one too and compete with me? What a shame, Tessa. Even if you've been touched by Brody 10,000 times, you'll never be able to have his child in this lifetime. I understood gold diggers like Tessa, with her wild ambitions, all too well. Once she found out there was something wrong with Brody's body, she definitely wouldn't just sit around and wait. Sure enough, over the next half-month or so, the private detective I hired at a high salary sent me reports. Not only was Tessa finding excuses to cling to Brody, but she also began frequenting underground fertility centers and private men's hospitals in various locations extremely frequently. The fish took the bait. Finally, after a long tug of war, late one night, Tessa sent me a clear ultrasound pregnancy test report from a burner account. That same evening, Brody came to my apartment with an extremely tough attitude. Compared to his attempt to reconcile last month, he now seemed extremely cold and heartless. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Bring all the documents and come with me to the judge to complete the final dissolution procedure. He stared at me coldly, as if looking at a piece of garbage with no use value. I pretended to be shocked and hurt. Brody, didn't you say we weren't getting divorced? Why? Because Tessa is pregnant. A hint of uncontrollable wild joy flashed in Brody's eyes. God has blessed me, she is carrying my child. So I don't need to be controlled by you anymore if you obediently go through with the procedures tomorrow. I promise the money I offered, you won't be taken back. Otherwise, I'll mobilize my legal team, sue you for fraud, and make you leave the United States with nothing. Looking at his confident and vicious appearance, I laughed mockingly in my heart. A man with severe oligospermia actually believes that a woman like Tessa could naturally conceive his child in just 1 short month. Simply, hopelessly stupid. I squeezed out a few tears, pretending to collapse and pleading with him, and finally reluctantly agreed to his demands. The next morning, I met Brody at the law school building. To prevent him from getting suspicious, I deliberately applied a bit of red eyeshadow at the corners of my eyes, making it look like I had been crying all night. When Brody saw my miserable appearance, he let out a smug, cold snort, and Tessa stuck to him like a plaster, her eyes full of a victor's arrogance when she saw me. The judge confirmed that our property division agreement was legal and valid, and stamped the final judgment with the steel seal. From the moment the judge struck the gavel, he was completely free and at the same time gained control of half of Brody's wealth empire. Without any hesitation, I grabbed the documents and, without looking back, walked toward the exit in my high heels. Me decisiveness stunned Brody, and he instinctively chased after me a couple steps. Riley, you. I directly pulled open the door of the Porsche that had been parked by the roadside, slammed on the gas, and in a cloud of flying dust, left Brody and Tessa far behind. Over a week later, Brody's company announced with great fanfare to all American media the grand wedding plans for Brody and Tessa, with the wedding scheduled for a month later at a private estate. And at that time, I was leisurely lying on a private beach on a California island, drinking champagne to prevent trouble. I changed all my contact information and blocked out everything from the past. I freely dove in the ocean, enjoying a freedom I'd never had before. However, just as I descended to around 15 meters deep near a coral reef, an accident happened. The valve on my oxygen tank suddenly had a serious leak, and immediately after, the regulator couldn't draw out a single breath of oxygen. The pain of suffocation instantly swept through my entire body. I struggled frantically in the deep sea, me lungs hurting like they were being stabbed with needles. In the last second, before I completely lost consciousness and fell into darkness, I vaguely saw a broad, strong figure cutting through the water like an arrow, swimming towards me at extreme speed. The pungent smell of disinfectant made me snap my eyes open. Accompanied by coughing, I received an urgent call from my trust attorney. "Miss Riley, thank God you are alive." The lawyer's voice was extremely anxious. "Something terrible has happened. Brody pulled some strings and froze part of your offshore assets. He is trying to overturn the original property division agreement." What? I sat up, clutching my chest. "Not only that, your vacant apartment in New York caught fire last night, and the police found a charred, unidentified female body inside. Everyone outside is now spreading rumors that you've died in an accident, and Brody is preparing to legally reclaim your assets as the surviving spouse." I was trembling with rage. This was definitely not a coincidence. The sabotage diving equipment, plus the fire in the apartment. Brody and Tessa, they're trying to kill me off completely. Just as I was getting anxious, the hospital room door was pushed open. A man wearing a haute couture suit, tall and slender, with deeply handsome features, walked in, his deep blue eyes locked onto me, carrying a relieved tenderness. "It is actually you, Gavin." I shouted his name in shock. "Gavin. We grew up together in the same foster family. He was my childhood friend. During those years when I was obsessed with chasing after Brody, he left America in dejection and had been gone for 5 years. Eat something first." Gavin placed a serving of exquisite private chef oatmeal porridge on my bedside table, skillfully wiping away the cold sweat at the corner of my eye with his thumb. "I am back now. No one can hurt you anymore." Gavin watched me eat the food and finally revealed to me a bone-chilling truth. "Your diving accident wasn't an accident, and neither was that fire." Sitting by my bedside, Gavin's eyes turned cold and sharp. "It was done by the organization behind Tessa." "What organization?" "Tessa isn't some innocent girl at all. She is the top bait for a gold digger syndicate operating on the East Coast. They specialize in hunting arrogant and easily manipulated heirs from wealthy families like Brody." Gavin told me that Tessa's goal had always been to drive me away and then take control of all of Brody's assets. She didn't expect Brody to give me half of his fortune. To seize that money back, the syndicate boss issued an assassination order. They attempted to create the illusion of my accidental death so that Brody would reclaim the massive inheritance, which Tessa would ultimately take over completely. Fortunately, I've been having people secretly protect you all along. I was also the one who saved you in the ocean. Gavin gripped my hand tightly. "Riley, what do you plan to do now?" The hatred from 2 lifetimes burned fiercely in my chest. In my past life, I died on the operating table. In this life, they're still hunting me down. I raised my head, my eyes vicious. I am going to send them to hell at their wedding of the century. Seeing my resolute eyes, Gavin smiled. He lowered his head and gently kissed the back of my hand. "All right, whatever you want, I'll make it happen for you. My power now is enough to destroy 10 families like Brody's." Inside Gavin's safe house, every day that passed felt like torture. But I knew I had to deliver a fatal blow. I handed over all the clues about Tessa and the gang behind her that I'd collected in both my past and present lives to Gavin's hacker team. 3 days before the wedding, Tessa, who thought I was already dead, actually sent me an extremely arrogant, anonymous, taunting email from a backup phone. She thought she was showing off to a dead person. "See this grand venue. Brody reserved this entire estate. Soon, E, who took your life and fortune, will become the true mistress." I let out a cold laugh and had Gavin's team set up a timed release of the bombshell explosion on Brody and Tessa's wedding day. The estate was filled with celebrities, and the media's flashbulbs nearly lit up the entire night sky. However, standing beneath the gorgeous floral arch, the groom Brody seemed restless, looking at Tessa in front of him wearing an extremely lavish wedding dress. Brody felt an emptiness inside. Over the past month, even though rumors said Riley was already dead, he still refused to believe it. He was even thinking that if his ex-wife, who always looked at him so tenderly, could burst into the venue to stop the wedding right now, he would immediately abandon Tessa and leave with her. The bride Tessa was equally distracted. She was waiting for word from the boss behind the scenes to confirm whether Riley's death certificate had been completely solidified. Suddenly, Tessa's phone vibrated. After reading what was on the screen, the color drained from her face instantly. "Honey, this haute couture wedding dress is too tight. I am going to the restroom to catch my breath." She made up an excuse casually and hurriedly left, holding up her dress, watching her flustered figure retreating. Brody was about to follow and check on her when his phone also suddenly vibrated over a dozen times in succession. When Brody opened those anonymously sent attachments, he felt his world collapse. Tessa hid in the luxurious lounge on the second floor of the church, locked the door, and dialed a number. "Who the hell are you? What do you want?" A laugh processed through a voice changer came from the other end. It was me who arranged for Gavin's subordinate to make the call. "1 billion in hush money, or we'll display the evidence that the bastard in your belly was actually conceived with sperm borrowed from an underground organization on the big screen right now," Tessa screamed. "Give me some time. I'll arrange the fund transfer immediately. Don't push me. That bitch Riley has already been taken care of by my boss. If you don't shut up, you'll meet the same fate." What she didn't know was that due to the hacking by Gavin's team, this not only connected her call, but also transmitted her hysterical voice at this moment, word for word, through Bluetooth to the corridor speakers outside the lounge. Outside the door, Brody was clutching his phone tightly. Playing on the phone screen was footage of Tessa going to an underground clinic for hymen restoration surgery and transaction records of her purchasing sperm. Brody's eyes were red, as if dripping blood, anger, and the humiliation of being thoroughly fooled made him lose all reason. He kicked open the door to the lounge with a bang. Brody, seeing her fiancé looking like a demon, Tessa's phone dropped to the ground. "You goddamn fraud. How dare you cheat on me? That bastard child isn't even mine." Brody roared as he rushed forward, grabbing Tessa by the hair and dragging her out of the lounge. The two had an extremely violent struggle and argument at the huge marble staircase entrance connecting the hall on the second floor. "Listen to my explanation, Brody. I love you," Tessa struggled desperately. "Go to hell, you fucking bitch." Brody was disgusted to the extreme, and in his rage, He violently flung Tessa's arm away. The complicated and heavy wedding dress skirt at Tessa's feet tangled around her high heels. Accompanied by a shrill scream, she completely lost her balance and tumbled down the dozens of marble steps with a boom. When she crashed heavily onto the floor of the first floor hall, all the guests burst into terrified screams. Bright red blood slowly spread along her white dress worth millions. A shocking sight. This wedding became the biggest scandalous joke in all of America. Tessa, covered in blood, was taken away by the ambulance. Of course, the baby couldn't be saved, and Brody was immediately pinned to the ground by the police, who rushed in and handcuffed. The reason was that the FBI had already received solid evidence provided by Gavin and was conducting a crackdown on the fraud gang behind Tessa. Tessa was sentenced to death for suspected attempted murder in collaboration with organized crime and massive fraud, although Brody was ultimately cleared of murder charges due to insufficient evidence. He faced a sentence of several years for intentionally pushing someone in public, resulting in severe injury and miscarriage. Combined with his company's scandal breaking out, the stock price plummeting, it soon faced bankruptcy. 6 months later, Brody Having paid an enormous bail. Looking 10 years older, searched everywhere in poverty, and finally found himself in front of a stunning villa located in a private bay. He rang the doorbell. When the door opened, Brody's eyes lit up and he dropped to his knees with a thud. "Riley, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I only have you and the child left. Please forgive me." I held a glass of red wine, looking down at this man who had trampled me underfoot in my previous life, a mocking smile curling at the corner of my mouth. My lower abdomen was still flat, and I was even wearing a sexy silk camisole. Brody froze. "The child. Where is our child?" A strong, powerful arm wrapped around my waist from behind. Gavin, wearing a casual shirt and emanating a dangerous yet alluring mature aura, lowered his head and planted a kiss on my cheek. "Mr. Brody." Gavin looked coldly at the ant on the ground. "Who told you she would leave herself vulnerable for someone like you? On the very first day you signed the divorce agreement. That burden already ceased to exist." Brody's eyes widened in disbelief, a painful whimper escaping his throat as if a knife were cutting into his heart. You actually got rid of the only connection between us for this man." "No, Brody." I leaned down, my indifferent voice becoming the final straw that broke him, from beginning to end. "I was only after your money. Now, get out of my territory." With a bang, the heavy oak door shut tightly amid Brody's desperate howls. I turned around, my wine glass gently clinking with Gavin's outside the window. The sun was shining brightly, waves crashing against the rocks. My free and wealthy life had only just begun. After being shut out that day, Brody returned like a homeless dog to his only remaining rundown apartment on the East Coast. He thought that was rock bottom for his life. But he was wrong. The true abyss had only just opened up to him, due to the scandals and disgraces at the wedding of the century, plus the involvement of the fraud gang behind Tessa. The Brody family business's reputation on Wall Street was completely ruined. The stock plummeted 80% in just a few months. The old foxes on the board of directors sold off their shares to save themselves, and the banks cut off all credit lines. Brody's business empire was on the brink of bankruptcy, just when Brody was at his wit's end. The day before he was about to file for bankruptcy protection, his assistant excitedly called to say that a powerful top-tier venture capital consortium was willing to fully acquire his company and pay off all his debts. Brody thought he had finally grabbed a lifeline. As long as the company still existed, even if he was just a small shareholder, he could continue to maintain a decent life. The next day, Brody put on his only remaining custom, tailored suit, carefully styled his hair, trying to reclaim the authority of his former CEO days. He pushed open the door to the top-floor conference room of the Wall Street Center building. However, when he smiled and prepared to extend his hand to the mysterious head of the consortium, his smile instantly froze on his face. Sitting in the head seat of that large black walnut conference table that symbolized absolute power was not some Wall Street investment tycoon, but Riley in a well-tailored beige business suit, wearing red lipstick, radiating full presence. Oh, the exquisite, poetic justice of it all. Keying a man's sports car or burning his designer suits on the front lawn is amateur hour. You know what top-tier revenge looks like, taking the very millions he gave you to assuage his own guilty conscience, using it as leverage, and executing a ruthless hostile takeover of his entire family legacy. Brody walks into that room thinking he is being thrown a corporate lifeline, only to find the woman he discarded sitting on the throne, holding the deed to his life. She didn't just fire him. She legally evicted him from his own bloodline's empire without messing up her red lipstick, check, and mate. And Gavin, like a loyal and powerful guardian, arms crossed, stood behind and to her side. Riley, why are you here? Brody rubbed his eyes in disbelief, his voice trembling. The actual controlling shareholder of this venture capital consortium. That is right, it is me. I crossed my legs, my slender fingers lightly tapping on the table as I pushed a 100-page acquisition proposal in front of him. Thanks to the half of the assets you generously gave me back then to please Tessa over the past 6 months. Under Gavin's top-secret operation, I used those funds as leverage to gradually acquire all the retail shares of your company in the secondary market, plus the shares I bought from the 2 major shareholders yesterday. I smiled slightly, my eyes still sharp as a knife. Brody, I am now the largest shareholder of your company, with 65% voting rights. In other words, this family business you are so proud of now belongs to me. Brody's legs gave out, and he collapsed heavily into the leather chair. His face was deathly pale, gasping for air, as if all the blood had been drained from his body. You are so ruthless. Brody desperately pounded on the table. Riley, I've already lost everything. Why do you still have to push me to the brink? Ruthless. I stood up, walked in front of him, looking down at him from above. In my past life, or rather, the Riley who was willing to give up her life for you, who was it that pushed her to the edge? Brody, I am not pushing you to the brink. I am just taking back what never should have belonged to you in the first place. Sign it. Sign this forced resignation agreement. Take your severance package and get the hell out of my building. Otherwise, I'll have the finance team launch an internal audit and hand over all the fake accounts of you using company funds to buy designer bags for those mistresses over the past few years to the Federal Tax Bureau. At that point, what you'll be facing won't be bankruptcy, but federal prison. Upon hearing the words federal prison, Brody completely broke down. With trembling hands, he signed his name on the agreement, then staggered out of the building that once belonged to him, like a puppet that had lost its soul. After completely destroying Brody's material empire, I took the time to make a trip to the federal courthouse. Today was the final sentencing day for Tessa and the fraud ring behind her. In the courtroom gallery, he wore a low-key yet luxurious black cashmere coat and sunglasses, quietly watching as Tessa was escorted in by the bailiffs. That face that was once incredibly gorgeous and arrogant had now become dull and lifeless, due to not getting proper rest after the miscarriage accident on the stairs, plus the trauma suffered in the detention center. Tessa looked haggard and aged, completely unable to tell she was only in her 20s. Faced with the ironclad evidence of interstate wire fraud, extortion, and commercial fraud charges, the judge showed no mercy and brought down the gavel directly. The defendant, Tessa, with combined punishment for multiple crimes, is sentenced to 20 years in federal prison without parole. When the judge's merciless voice echoed through the empty courtroom, Tessa completely collapsed to the ground. She screamed and cried hysterically, trying to use that pitiful act of hers, which had been extremely effective on hedge fund tycoons, to move the judge, but it was all in vain. Just as the heavy handcuffs were being placed on her, and she was about to be dragged away by the bailiffs, her desperate gaze swept across the gallery. She saw me. I took off my sunglasses and gave her an extremely calm smile filled with triumph. Then, I casually took Gavin's arm beside me and turned to walk toward the bright and free world outside. Tessa let out a shrill, piercing scream in the courtroom, but that heavy oak door had already completely separated her from this glamorous world. Having resolved all of the past, I also welcomed my rebirth. The weekend after leaving the courthouse, Gavin took me aboard his 3-story luxury superyacht docked in Miami. It wasn't until we started planning our life together that I truly understood Gavin's capabilities. He had long ago established his own tech and security empire in Europe, and was a true stealth billionaire. But he never looked down on me because of his wealth. Instead, he respected every one of my business decisions and even helped me successfully transform Brody's former company, tripling its net profit. The sunset dyed the entire Atlantic a rose gold color. The deck of the yacht was covered with white roses airlifted from the Netherlands. No noisy guests, no flashbulbs for show, only the gentle sea breeze and a self-playing grand piano. Gavin wore a pure white linen shirt, and amid the sky full of red clouds, he knelt down on one knee before me. He didn't pull out one of those tacky, showy diamond rings like a pigeon egg, but instead produced a ring custom, made by a top designer, set with a rare blue diamond. That blue diamond was called Rare Birth. Riley. Gavin looked up, those deep azure eyes holding affection that spanned over a decade. I missed you once, watched you walk into the abyss. From the moment I pulled you out of that suffocating deep sea, I swore to God that in this lifetime, I would only be your guardian, your accomplice, your partner. Not because you are perfect, but because you are Riley. Whether you are that little girl who shared the same piece of bread with me in foster care, or the decisive Wall Street queen you are now, I love you. Will you let me stand by your side legitimately and spend the rest of our lives together? Tears finally fell without warning, but this time, not because of pain, but because of profound fulfillment and happiness. I do. I reached out my hand, letting him slip that ring representing eternity and respect firmly onto my ring finger. Gavin stood up and pulled me into his arms, sealing a passionate kiss on this sea that belonged to us. 3 years later, at a top-tier charity gala on New York's Fifth Avenue, I had just donated $10 million on behalf of my foundation to the National Shelter for Abused and Vulnerable Women. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Flashbulbs captured my confident, composed, and powerful smile. The press called me one of the most influential women on the East Coast. After the gala ended, Gavin personally came to pick me up in that understated black Rolls Royce. We exchanged a tender kiss in the back seat. The car glided smoothly through Manhattan's bustling streets. At a traffic light intersection, light snow was falling outside the window. I casually glanced out the window. Outside the glass of a fast food restaurant by the roadside, a homeless man in a worn jacket, unshaven, clutching a cheap bottle of liquor, was staring blankly at my commercial advertisement, projected on a skyscraper. It was Brody, that once arrogant CEO from a wealthy family who treated women's true feelings as sacrifices, had now been completely cast aside by society, becoming a useless person who couldn't even support himself. Without money, without false love, all he had left was endless regret and pain. "What are you looking at?" Gavin followed my gaze, his brows furrowing slightly, as if he wanted to call the bodyguards to drive them away and clean up. "Nothing, just saw some trash blown down by the wind." I indifferently withdrew my gaze and pressed the window control button, completely isolating that unsightly remnant behind the bulletproof glass. I leaned on Gavin's broad and warm shoulder, gently closing my eyes. Some women, trapped by a terrible marriage, think the sky has fallen. But only when we truly sever those blood-sucking vines and mercilessly take back what belongs to us, do we discover we never need to rely on any man's pity to survive, because we ourselves can become queens. My loves, let's take a collective deep breath and look at the hard truth this story shoves right in our faces. For generations, women have been conditioned to be their ride or die. We are taught to endure, to forgive, and to constantly shrink ourselves to accommodate a man's flaws, all in the name of keeping the family together. In her first life, Riley played that role perfectly. She literally took a bullet for him, or a yacht, in this case, and gave up her entire career to be his devoted shadow. And how did he repay her? By stepping over her bleeding body to hand her crown to a professional con artist. What I find so profoundly intoxicating about Riley's rebirth isn't the literal magic of time travel. It's the metaphorical awakening, where birth happens the exact moment you detach your self-worth from a man's validation. Brody didn't actually love Riley. He loved the convenience of her unconditional worship. The second she withdrew that worship and started operating with cold, corporate logic, his entire world collapsed. He tried to crawl back, not because he loved her, but because he realized he was utterly incompetent without her light blinding everyone to his flaws. And let's talk about Gavin for a second. Find yourself a partner who doesn't want to lock you in a gilded cage, but instead hands you the keys to a super yacht and helps you triple your net profit. Real love doesn't require you to be a martyr. It requires you to be an equal. So, I'm turning the floor over to you, me brilliant observers. Have you ever had that raw birth moment where the rose-colored glass is finally shattered and you walked away from a toxic dynamic completely unbothered? Have you ever used a narcissist's own ego against them to secure your peace? Or your bag spill your absolute best tea in the comments below? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Guard your heart and your assets. And remember, your peace of mind is the ultimate luxury brand. Stay sharp, stay untouchable. And I'll see you in the next story. Cheers.